we're back. This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here on CCW TV, the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. Want to throw in a quick plug. We put these every week on the links in the episode description. But make sure that you check out the CCW TV blog. And plus, I started posting on the blog specifically because the new comments section on YouTube fucking blows. Yeah. So the comments are actually, you can write as much as you want on the blog in the comments section, and they're structured in a much better manner. Right. So it's just better. People have said that it's easier to post comments on the videos on the blog. So all these videos will be embedded on the blog, and then you are free to comment to your heart's content on there. We have noticed the comments on the videos themselves have been dropping dramatically, and I know it's because people are just pissed off. And not everyone wants to comment in, Twitter form, just 130 characters, whatever or less. I know it's more than that. But, the comment section on YouTube right now doesn't allow for real comments. I mean, all you can do is blurt out a couple sentences and not get a lot of content in there. So please check those out. And, of course, on the blog you will find other things such as the CCW Open Thread, where we have just a whole lot of conversation going on between CCW TV viewers. We have the question of the week. Every once in a while I'll throw a poll up. Jose will post what's shipping for each week. We have DMAR's drawings, DMAR's Sunday Funnies that run on Sundays. And Iron Man Muskrat's capsule reviews for comics. And then we also have Batman, the satire of the Dark Knight that DMAR and Little King Ryan have made. It's running along nicely. It's only going to be so many. It's only so many weeks. I think it's like 15 weeks tops, and we're about 6 weeks in. So check it out and comment on it. DMAR and Little King Ryan have been working very hard on those strips. So please check them out and tell your friends. Couple things that did come up on the blog, some things that will lead us into Last Rants, is first, about a couple weeks ago, I had posted a video and a poll regarding something called the Bechdel test. Now, the Bechdel test sparked a lot of conversation on the blog. Maybe you should post a link to it. We'll post a link to it somewhere on this page or video. The Bechdel test was an analysis done regarding movies and how women are portrayed in them, and there were 3 rules for something in the Bechdel test. Was 1, are there 2 female characters that have names? Mm-hmm. 2, do the female characters talk to each other about something other than the male protagonist in the film? And I forget what the third one was. I already forgot. But anyway. Wow. Yeah. That's a really good way to... But those first 2, though, those 2 rules, do you have 2 female characters with names? And do they actually the fact that you couldn't remember the third one already just discredits whatever opinion you have of it. Really? Really? Well, anyway, the first 2 actually were the most significant for me. Why? Because when you couldn't be bothered to remember the third one. Really? Because when it came up on the blog when we were discussing it, some folks commented. I asked a question: which of your comics, what comic books did you read? Did they or did they not pass the Bechdel test? And there was a lot of commentary about it, and should it? People were actually feeling bad about it, and so I even came out and said some of the stuff I've written did not pass the Bechdel test. I think I pointed it out, actually. 2 people pointed it out, actually. And I even brought it up myself. So, what happened with me these past few weeks as I'm writing my new monthly, I was well into a script, and I realized that what I had written when I applied the Bechdel test to it didn't pass. That I was falling into a lot of the same traps that a lot of the comics that
we read and a lot of the movies that we see fell into. And it gave me pause, and I actually found myself doing some tweaks to my script, not dramatic, but just some tweaks to my script that I actually felt made it stronger. So that is something that I know there was a commenter on the blog who said, aren't you asking a lot of the writer to think about those rules as they're writing to kind of meet this criteria? To which I responded, I don't think these are the hardest rules to follow. Although in my case, I probably should remember all the rules if I'm going to follow the rules.
Yeah, shit.
But it actually, in considering those rules and writing my script, guess what? It helped me consider the characters more, and it actually helped inspire kind of a more positive direction for the story. So I'm just throwing that out there. When these sorts of things get pointed out and these quote unquote criticisms are made, it never hurts to actually consider what the message is before just going off on it and invalidating it. So. Anyway, did you you don't follow Twitter though, do you? Speaking of criticism and listening to criticism, C.B. Cebulski from Marvel, just last week. But I like following C.B. Cebulski because he has, he drops these little clever things from time to time, and he's been doing a lot of promotion of the How to Break Into Marvel Comics. Although I'll tell you right now, following C.B. Cebulski's tweets is probably more useful than buying those books, How to Break Into Comics the Marvel Way. CB, I guess he read some blog or something somewhere that he took exception to because he pulled the old, if you don't work in this industry, you really shouldn't be criticizing the way it's run. He made a comment to the effect that people who, just because, and I'm trying to remember, because just because you have a blog and you say you know how to run Marvel Comics and make it better doesn't mean you actually know how to run Marvel Comics. So I'm kind of...
Do people who run Marvel Comics know how to run Marvel Comics? That's my question.
Well, I don't know, because it took me aback a little bit, because of course he came out and said, he put a qualifier. He goes, I'm not talking specifically about the fans who want to criticize, like, let's say, the way a story is told or stuff like that.
Isn't that the same thing, though?
Well, I think he was talking maybe about the business end of it.
Okay.
So here was my question. And we get this a lot here on CCW TV because Jose and I have opinions. And that's something that we like to express, and that's all this show is about, is having an opinion and expressing it. But do people who just read comics, do we have a right to criticize the business of comics? My question is, if I've never...
Or do we just have to sit here and take all the bullshit that we're handed?
I guess, yeah. Do we have a right to criticize the business of comics? Because when it comes to, right now, the biggest criticism that we have of comic books is the cover price. Mm-hmm. Comic books, we talked about this in last rants. Comic books across the board, soon are going to be going up to $3.99, and you talked about how, there's certain things you're going to keep, certain things you're going to drop. The industry has kind of forced folks into that corner where they just can't buy everything they want. They're going to have to pick up and drop things. But as a consumer, as someone, unless you've worked in the hallowed halls of DC or Marvel, do you have the right to criticize the business model? And according to C.B. Cebulski, no. You don't, because you don't know. You don't know how comics are run. So how could you have an opinion about it?
Or what's the criteria in order for me to be able to have an opinion? Do I have to have a job at Marvel?
I think you have to, yes, you have to have worked at Marvel Comics to have an opinion about it.
Wow.
That's kind of what I'm getting out of that.
I guess this is our last fucking show.
Well, at least for us to be taken seriously. See, here's the thing I don't get, and you see this all across the board.
That I don't get that if now I have not read this comment, I have not read this statement. I am going 100% by what Elliot has said. To me, that kind of statement it just shuts people down, and just in order to shut them up. I don't understand that kind of mentality.
You know, I don't. You're absolutely right. I don't get this
any kind of mentality,
hypersensitivity to criticism.
Hypersensitivity, but I also just like the fact that it just to like this is how it is, and this is how it always will be,
right?
And you know, just shut up and take it.
Because I know recently, and you've seen that a lot more. It's coming more out of the Marvel offices than anywhere. I know, you know, Marvel editorial, they get, and I'm not going to say unjustifiably, but they sometimes seem a little reactive to the internet and fanboy opinion. You know, they always, it's always about somebody's blog. You know, Bendis, I've seen Bendis has tweeted about particular blogs. This, of course, C.B. Cebulski was reading a blog and he reacted to that. It's always about blogs. You never see them reacting to mainstream media, like an ad in like an article in Time or the New York Post or something. They're always reacting to somebody's blog.
You know what that kind of reminds me of? Just fucking bullies. Picking on somebody that's smaller than them and telling them that this is how it's going to be and just to shut the hell up. I mean, I don't see DC doing that.
Yet.
Right, yet. We should quantify that. Yet. But it always seems that just
or at least they don't do it,
shooting his mouth like you know,
yeah.
like talking down to people, talking on DC, and then you have people talking down to blogs and stuff. It's like, that is bullying.
Well, speaking of, since we're talking, you bring him up, his Facebook page, he was very disappointed with Batman number 700.
Yeah.
Did you read that?
I wasn't even going to bring that up because I didn't want to talk about that guy.
He was quite disappointed because, you know, it didn't measure up to the centennial issues that Marvel's been putting out.
Yeah, because it was all original content, first of all.
I know.
So, too bad DC couldn't throw like 30 pages of reprinted bullshit in the back.
And wiki padding. And a bunch of pinups.
Fucking glass houses, man.
But you see, I don't get this whole thing right now.
And it is pretty lopsided. I mean, it is all coming from Marvel.
And
for the most part.
And I'm going to say this. I mean, I know, you know, for those of you who work in the industry, and I know I know folks who are editorial, and I sympathize. I sympathize with having to deal with, you know, a lot of times it seems that a lot of criticism comes from a place of ignorance. I'll admit that, and it can, after a while, it gets annoying. You just want to tell people to shut the hell up. But it's comic books for one, and in the end, any form of criticism for this kind of thing is somewhat irrelevant, because consider this. If you work for the White House right now, you have an entire friggin' news corporation doing nothing but criticizing you 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Okay? If they can handle that, and these are the people who are running the friggin' free world,
right.
Why the hell can't C.B. Cebulski and Joe Quesada handle some blogger bitching about, you know, the business practices of Marvel? It just seems to be pretty ridiculous. And that sometimes I think the folks who work in the industry take their jobs a little too seriously. You know, this friggin' entertainment. You know, look at the people who work in Hollywood. When they get criticized, when they make movies that bomb, you know, from time to time, and people rip their movies, you think they're sitting there going, oh, stop saying bad things about us because you don't work in Hollywood, and then they go in a corner and cry.
Well, to me, again, to go back to the way that statement was framed, and just the negativity and just the violence, the bullying that comes out of it, it's like, wouldn't it maybe behoove you to try to open up a dialogue with somebody and just saying, all right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, you know, and just talk to somebody about the problems that they have, and talk to them like, well, this is why we do this, is why we do that.
Right.
Most of the time, I mean, how long did it take for us to get a fucking answer about the $3.99 price hike at Marvel?
Right.
We didn't even get an official. It leaked out that some board member was saying, like, well, how much can we fucking gouge these guys for?
Yep.
$3.99. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then all the couching of, well, this is the market, and this is how much it really should be worth, and so on and so forth, that's all baloney. In the end, it was just one of the shareholders saying, hey, let's see how much we can get. Yeah. In the end, let's see how much we can get.
I don't know, like, talking down people and being bullies, like, it just doesn't, I don't understand, like, the whole thing is like, yeah, we're negative on here about 80% of the time. I understand that, but you know, I respect people's opinions who can actually come back and say, well, I understand what you're saying, but this is how I see it, and I don't see it that way.
Right.
That's why can't people just talk like that? I don't understand that. And instead of fucking pissing and shitting on like little bloggers who obviously buy your material and actually buy your comics and pay your fucking salary, like what, you can't like talk to them civilly? Mm-hmm. It's this whole mentality of like we talked about, like people on the internet just cannot be civil to one another.
And again, you know, I don't know the full context of the exchange and who C.B. Cebulski was referring to specifically. But when you say stuff like that, you throw that stuff out on the internet, especially in Twitter, where you have that, and any sort of context can be put on that. You have to really consider what you're saying and how the context can be altered by, say, people like us later on.
Yeah.
You know? Because we could, and I mean, if all I read is that...
Weren't you telling me about, like, some artist who was shitting on fans? Or writer or something?
Yeah, Bill Willingham. Bill Willingham, who...
Which I couldn't find on the internet, so...
Yeah, who, after a number of fans brought to him their displeasure with the female Robin being killed and not having a memorial to her because it wasn't acknowledging the victimization of girls in comics, he made an offhand remark that I want to gun down every fan who complained about that, or something to that effect.
Was this a recent comment, or was this a comment that he made back then?
I think he made like a little while ago. It wasn't very recent.
It's just surfacing now?
It's surfacing, it's going around. But here's the other thing too, it's not getting spoken of about a lot because, well, it was not a huge hue and cry among the female fangirl community because the person who brought that to my attention even said, you know, a bunch of folks got together and wrote to DC about it, saying there should be a memorial to this character, who, by the way, really didn't die, okay? And even they acknowledged that later. But the issue was that this, you know, Jason Todd never died too, but you still have the little Robin, you know, memorial to him in the Batcave. You know, the old Robin. Right. What about the female Robin? How come she's not acknowledged and remembered in
some way? She was only Robin for like 4 issues.
Something like that, yeah. But it's so both because it's a girl and because these female readers felt kind of slighted. You know, they brought it up. They bring it up to Bill Willingham, who you would think would kind of have more of a sympathetic point of view because, let's face it, Fables is very popular among female readers. You know, very popular among female readers. You would think he would be more sympathetic to female readers. He makes that offhand comment that later on he tries to backpedal on. And again, it's back to context. But when you say something like that in today's day and age, anything you can say can be taken out of context. And you have to really consider what you're saying in a public forum. And he said that in a public forum. He said it at a convention.
That's great.
You know, again, we have these tools of communication. The internet is a tool of communication. Something like YouTube is a tool of communication. Gives us an opportunity to speak to folks that we otherwise might never encounter in our lives.
Also a huge source of misinformation.
A huge source of misinformation too, but guess what? The print media, I work in print media, but I've also dealt a lot with print media and television media. Even that's got a lot of misinformation in it. I have been misquoted so many times in different things. Again, you have to really be careful of what you say, when you say it, how you say it, because you never know what little soundbite or thing that you say is going to pop up on somebody's website or on a newsreel or something or the other. You got to be really careful of those things. And comics being, let's be honest, comics is a niche media these days. It's not huge. The people who work in comics, sorry guys, you might be big fish, but it is a small pond. I think in comics, this should be one of the easiest lessons to learn, or one of the easiest lessons to remember. Watch what you say, how you say it, and never shut yourself out for communication. But it seems like these days, comics are, there's this bunker mentality right now about
comics have kind of always been like that, though.
Well, if you want comics to expand, you can't do that.
No, I completely agree.
And on top of that, when you are part of now a Marvel Comics, really, come on, let's face it, you're part of a giant media conglomerate now. Can you imagine one of the editors of Time magazine saying that to a reader who wrote into them? Came out and said, you know what, you've never worked for Time magazine, so you really shouldn't criticize how we run our magazine.
That's a good point.
You know, I mean, or any sort of entertainment.
Well, Marvel, yeah, this is like a new thing for Marvel now that, you know, DC has been owned by Warner Brothers for a little while. They've learned how to be professionals. Right. I don't know if maybe it took them a while.
Unless you're Valerie D'Orazio and you haven't been professional with her at all, but anyway.
No, I just don't see the whole, you know, the whole bullying tactics of Marvel and their editors and their writers or whatever. I don't see that lasting long because Disney's going to see that kind of stuff and like they're supposed to be professionals. They should be professionals by now. You know, how long have these people been at Marvel that they can't act like fucking professionals to one another? I don't understand that at all. And if it's going to take, you know, Disney being like, well, to make an example of somebody, then maybe they'll fucking clean up their act.
Mm. Well, they should leave the bullying and all that to the lawyers.
Yeah, that too.
Because after hearing about how the Disney lawyers are now getting involved in the Jack Kirby dispute, and that's been talked about on the blog, especially by Locus Mortis. But we are by no means trying to tout Disney as the bastions of professionalism and fair play. But
actually, I hate them. But I'm just saying that, you know, they should. I don't know. If I was them, and I see this redheaded stepchild running around swearing and cussing and giving me a bad name because of it, I'm gonna fucking whip that child. I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna whip his ass until he learns his fucking not to do it anymore. Lesson. Learn his lesson. But maybe that's what it's gonna take, and if it's gonna take a couple of firings, then so be it. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it.
Neither will I, because I'm never.
Because I don't work for fucking Marvel.
I'm never going to, right? All right. So anyway, we take comics very seriously, but sometimes some folks take them too seriously. So anyway. Yeah. But hey, Marvel still does good stuff. Just so you know, this is Siege good.
Well, we had a bunch of good positive reviews from Marvel. So, but you know, it's from a select group of individuals who work within Marvel.
Yeah. So anyway, just my word of advice to folks who work in the business. You know, come on. You know, yeah, dealing with some of us can be pretty.
If you're having a bad day, you know, don't fucking tweet it because that shit's gonna be on there.
And you know what? And there's nothing wrong with writing to a person directly and saying, "Hey, dude, you know, let me explain this to you." You know, you don't have to say these things out in the open and kind of make a big public case about it, which is essentially what was done.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
A little more tact would have been nice, maybe. Maybe we wouldn't be talking about this.
We wouldn't even be talking about it. But then we'd have nothing to talk about, which would be boring. Then we'd have to do more reviews, which is kind of getting on my nerves. All right. So beyond that, you know, we look forward to your feedback, your comments. The CCW TV blog is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you guys to come by, check, and comment. And please tell your friends about it. The comments on the video channel, I know, have dropped like a stone. People just hate it. We recognize it. Come over to the blog. Tell us what you think there. And Jose and I will chime in from time to time about what the conversation is. And I'm trying to watch the YouTube channel too, but again, the YouTube channel is really difficult these days to deal with. And if you want to write us directly, you can reach us at comicculturewarrior@gmail.com. So just Comic Culture Warrior, one big long word.
Is that our new email address?
That's always been the one for the channel on the blog.
Do we open
We will. And we're going to be having another email address soon to make it even easier for you guys to get in touch with us. But comicculturewarrior@gmail.com. Check out the blog at comicculturewarrior.wordpress.com. And as always, tell your friends. We'd love to hear from more of you. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. So until next time, this has been Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez, coming to you from Dreamland Comics, Illinois. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.